how would you motivate somebody to say, hey, come over here to cybersecurity? We got some cool stuff going on.
Yeah, it's I know for me, what motivates me is the constant stream of data breaches that I see from out in the industry and in other organizations, and just thinking like, yeah, I think I could craft a program to prevent all these kinds of breaches. Even if you're not deep into the technology, there's still avenues there to help provide value, security value to organizations.
Have you always wondered what a rewarding career in technology feels like? Then look no further. Join Technologists of Color as they interview some amazing people of color working in the tech space. Get to hear their stories and the advice they have to embark on your own successful career. Strap in and take a listen.
I'm your host, Mark Lawson. This month is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We are honoring African Americans in the cybersecurity role this month. We have a special guest with us, a rambling wreck and a heck of an engineer, Anwar Reddick. He is the Director of Information Security for Greenlight Financial Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Anwar Reddick.
Thank you, Mark. I'm very happy and honored to be talking with you.
Good to speak with you as well. I know that we ran into each other recently at a cybersecurity conference. And actually, I just really wanted to speak with you, right, to have people kind of hear about your story. And it just so happened that as I was preparing for this, I came to find out that it was, in fact, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that's just happenstance, right? Things lining up in the way that they did.
Really cool.
Yeah. And I started off with the intro there that you're a rambling wreck. And obviously that's a nod to Georgia Tech, where we both attended. So along those lines, can you just, tell us your story? Like what got you into the information security profession?
Sure. So I studied computer science at Georgia Tech, and was grateful for that opportunity to go to the Georgia Institute of Technology. I feel like I got a really well-founded foundation and background in computing, and I feel like that's served me well to this date in my career. And so I did not focus specifically on security, but I took an intro to security course while I was there, and I started working at the Georgia Tech Research Institute, the applied R&D arm of Georgia Tech, after I graduated. And there I had the opportunity to go back to graduate school. And so I got enrolled in a master's in computer science program, was walking to orientation. And then the next room I noticed was the orientation for the master's in information security program. So I said, hey, let me just sit in on this orientation to see what that's about. And then from there, I got interested and got hooked into the cybersecurity field, decided to change my major to information security, which was pretty much a subset of computer science. And I was able to work on security related projects at my job, which was really helpful. And, I'd stayed in the security realm since then. So I'd say about 18 years of experience in technology and 16 of those in security.
So cybersecurity or information security, I will dare say that the movies and everything on television, usually portrays, like the things that I can think of are like the Matrix and other situations where like there's all these things happening and it's very automated and you're out there on the front lines protecting us from evil actors and those type of things. So what about the curriculum when you're interested in it, kind of piqued your interest? Because I know that obviously it's not that, or at least I don't think so. I don't think there are any kung fu battles going on that you have to worry about.
No kung fu battles, but so security. It's interesting because a lot of traditional domains, you think about how to create things and how to make things work, and in security, you tend to think of how do you break things or how things can be, how are they vulnerable and how they can be disrupted. So that angle of thinking that along that different perspective was intriguing to me, and at the time. I think it was 2006, that time frame when I started studying. Um, I realized that it seemed like this society as a whole did not have a good handle on how to do security well. And so it seemed like a exciting time to get into it. Um, Not all that convinced that we have a good handle on it today, but yeah, it's so I just find that challenging, that challenge to be intriguing and fascinating, and just working in a field where it's changing rapidly, and I get to be innovative and creative in providing solutions to problems that we face every day.
So you are actually facing those problems, and you've been in this field, as you said, for 18 years. So what's the day-to-day like for a director of information security?
So yeah, it's in my role. I'll say as the leading the security program and managing a department for Greenlight's a wonderful company. It's a high growth company. It's been operating for since around 2016, and we're a software technology firm, and we're in the financial space, so we're a fintech. And so I say all that because uh, security for different organizations can look very differently. So, but I believe working at a software firm is very different from working at a firm where it's not heavily rooted in writing your own software, and also working at a firm that's agile and high growth, where we are um, constantly looking at new ideas to serve our customers well, trying different experiments to see what best serves our customers well. That type of environment is very different from larger organizations that are more established. And so with that said, day to day, it's our mission is to ensure that Greenlight can continue to thrive and maintain an impeccable reputation in the face of cyber threats, and maintain our compliance requirements. And so it's the day-to-day work includes making sure we're doing the right things from a compliance perspective, so we can continue to sign key business contracts, um, making sure we are keeping an eye for active threat activity, malicious actors that are trying to break into our environment. We are able to quickly and effectively respond to those. And, and if anything were to go wrong, make sure we contain that and recover quickly so we continue operating. And the third piece, which is a lot of partnering in conversations with all the departments on making sure we're aligned on we are operating with security in mind. We are building products with security built in, and not just bolting security on after the fact. So that's a lot of conversation training, providing awareness on how we think about security, trying to put process in place that makes it easy for our departments to operate, so that they don't have to worry too much, and make sure that the process they execute the process and that we help put in place, that it's going to have security built in. So hopefully that gives some color there, but happy to dive in more if you like.
Yeah, I guess again, I think that like kind of like the media tends to sensationalize like what it looks like. So could you kind of describe like how you recognize that there's a threat, like that there's something going on? Like someone's actually trying to get into the system, or something's going wrong. I'll give like a little anecdote. I've noticed just recently that several systems, right, since we all have these things that we log into, right, that everybody's asking for multi-factor authentication. They're constantly like sending some type of like whether it's a code or something to kind of identify that this is me accessing the system, which leads me to believe that there's obviously something going on, that everyone now is doing more. Like just giving them my username and password is not enough for me to be me. So kind of like what does a threat look like?
Yeah. So threat actors are very sophisticated. That example with two-factor authentication, that is important because threat actors have become very good at obtaining usernames and passwords. So for example, some people reuse username and passwords across multiple websites. And if one of those websites gets hacked, then the threat actor can probably have your username and password for another website, which hopefully is not like your banking website. But if you have two-factor authentication on, then the threat actors won't be able to get in because they might theoretically, right, they won't have your second factor. But so the day-to-day, what does that look like? We have this term that I use, a threat sensor. So we have various threat sensors, where these tools that we embed at various places in the environment that are designed to just look at certain signals and report on those signals back to a central point. The traditional term for that is a SIEM, an SIEM, or Security Incident and Event Management Tool. That's the traditional name for it, but I call it like a central threat management platform, which receives all these signals, and then we can tune that platform to alert for the particular interesting activity that we want to alert on. And so basically logging is very important. So when someone logs into a Greenlight system, a log entry will be written about that log event, which has information about the IP address, who it is, the username, whether or not it's just a password, or did they do a second factor, or when was the last time they did the second factor. So there's a lot of that data, or even if the people log in and do single sign-on access other systems. So we have those logs as well. And so it's thinking about, okay, what are all the places where we want to pull logs or inject these threat sensors, and have that report back to our central repository, where we can glean that insight into if something weird or something is clearly going wrong.
Which I'm happy that you're there protecting. That's financial data. So it seems like people are in no short attempt always trying to hack my Facebook and my Instagram and other things like that. So I definitely know that they're going after financial data. If someone wanted to get into the industry, right, like currently, what are some of the things that they should be looking to do? You mentioned your academic background, but what are some other things around entering into the profession that someone would need?
So yeah, that's a great question. There are various entry points into the profession. My vector into the profession was through academia initially, but I think the biggest thing for me was getting my employer to be I proposed a project. So I was initially on a project doing software engineering. And so I finished that project and said, hey, for my next project, I would like to do the security analysis on the system. And they agreed and saw value in that. And then I was able to do that on a legit project. Actually discovered a system where the login mechanism was written by the developers that I knew I was partnering with, and there was a vulnerability where it's like you craft the right URL to the system, and then you can log in as admin, right, without having to know the password, and that's without saying like what that system was actually used for, but it was not. Nothing bad happened out of that analysis, let me just say. So, but that was fun to discover. But so that's another area is see if you can identify a project that you can do for your current employer. That way you get that's professional experience, so you get your toe in the water. Networking and talking with people who work in the profession and getting advice on those types of projects. So certifications is another way. Start with Security Plus, and then from there, there's a variety of different certifications at different layers of tailored to people of different backgrounds or levels of experience. The CISSP and CISA and CISM are some popular ones. Certainly not the only ones. So, and also there's some good programs like online resources with some labs and some projects that you can use to self-study and practice with the various types of tools that we use in the security industry. So I just do all of that you can. The goal being to actually do some actual security work in the area that you're interested in for an employer. So you're getting like actual real experience.
Technologists of Color strives to provide a growth platform for African Americans in the technology industry. We help you enter the industry and nurture your career goals. Our core programs focus on connecting, informing, teaching, and collaborating. If you are looking for a community to take your career to the next level, join Technologists of Color. Find us at techsofcolor.org.
So experience still carries weight to go along with the certifications to actually do it. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it does sound fun to me, and attempting to break into a system while at work, right? Like trying to make sure that you're secure by trying to find those vulnerabilities and access systems that you kind of shouldn't be in, to make sure that you are secure. So are there any other components of the job that are of interest or that you find enjoyable?
So we've been talking about the like breaking in or hacking in, which is in the realm of like penetration testing, or you might hear the term red teaming, where you're looking actively like on the offensive side on, okay, let me find out and actually demonstrate where systems are vulnerable, or let me see if I can social engineer the people at the organization, and find my way into the organization that way. And so, but there is many other angles and types of security roles. There's certainly, so I mentioned red teaming, and then which is the like offensive testing side, and the opposite is called blue teaming, which are the defenders. So the blue team sets up all these the threat sensors, and they have all the checks in place, and then the red team comes and sees if they can break in with and then the blue team gets to test and see if their systems are working properly. So some other areas, I mentioned compliance. In business, businesses need to work together and partner with each other. They want to know if the partner they're going to be working with has proper security controls in place. And so there's an entire domain around security compliance and audits that's designed to answer that question. And so security auditing is a substantial area of work where there's lots of career paths there. Internally, also partnering with like at Greenlight, we have a lot of software engineers who write code for Greenlight, and so from the security side, and we're hosted in the cloud, and so from the security side, if we want security baked into our product, that an application code that we write and how it's hosted, we have security engineers who partner with our software engineers and our cloud engineers to actually build, create security controls, or make sure when we're writing code, we're writing that with security in mind, or we're writing so that it has the proper logs, or it's doing the proper checks in our production services. So that's another major area of security. And there are some others as well in terms of like internal for an organization. How do employees log into systems, understanding data, right? So, at Greenlight, we deal with financial data with families. There's a significant amount of sensitive data categories there. So understanding what those categories are, what are the implications for protecting those? How should we protect those? How should we use things like encryption to protect those, and making sure that only the right people at the organization has access to that data as needed to do their jobs. And limiting that access is very important. So that's just kind of off the cuff, like a somewhat of a rundown. Pretty sure there's some probably good resources online, especially if you look at the certifications that give these broad assessments of the types of swim lanes that are available in security.
So you mentioned the different challenges. What would you say, and you mentioned it briefly, what do you think are the biggest challenges technical, or are they behavioral, right? Like in terms of internally, right? Like people, as you mentioned, reusing passwords, um, clicking on emails and then clicking links that they should, like behavioral things, or technology. And can we really head all this off with technology, or is it a balance? Like, what do you see the largest challenge in your job? Is it the people? Is it the software?
The biggest challenge is, I would say, I don't want to say it's somewhat behavioral, but it's not that people are necessarily doing the wrong things to the point where they're being disserving. They're not serving our organization well. So I'll try to unpack that a little bit. So a lot of organizations, we're in business to build solutions, build software products, provide services to customers, right? And if we're not doing that, then we're not going to be in business. So, and just the nature of having services be online, and the nature of software is like, and nature of humanity is like, we're not perfect, right? And so every substantially large software system is going to have what we call vulnerabilities. They're going to be weaknesses. Also, you probably heard with people, you might have heard this trope of like people causing security problems because they get a phishing email and they click a link, right? But if you think about it, the World Wide Web works off of hyperlinks. And so there's this dichotomy of, some security advice of don't click links, or make sure you only click on good links. But to do business on the web day to day, normally you're clicking links all day. So if you're used to clicking links all day, it's really hard to like catch that one email that comes in that has a suspect link. And so, and another saying in security is, security is like a chain, and the bigger the organization, the longer the chain, and the more links there are in the chain. The bad threat actors need to just find one weak link in the chain. So it's the chain is as strong as the weakest link. And the security team, the organization has to be near perfect, whereas the threat actors need to find one single hole and can cause a catastrophe. So that's setting the backdrop for the challenge for security. And to address that, I think we just have to be excellent with the technology, the technological tools for security, and excellent with partnering with the business to make sure, because we have to operate, we have to process data, but doing that while we minimize risk, understanding that we can't be perfect, but putting multiple layers in place, like we call that defense in depth, so that if one layer fails, we have other layers in place to make sure that the organization will still be able to recover and properly protect our sensitive and customer data. So, I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but it's having to be excellent at both. We need to make all the unsafe ways of operating like difficult to do, and make the safest ways of operating as easy as possible. Right? Ideally, the ideal is that the safest pathway is the easiest pathway, and that's really challenging to do across the board. So it's kind of like North Star almost of like, uh, when we're thinking about putting controls and processes and guidance in place, like that's the direction we want to go in. We want to see how can we get closer to that ideal. Um, that way, because we want to let people be themselves, because they're going to be themselves. It's hard for people to uh, change their behavior, um, just from, us just recommending like, hey, you should you should use a better password. So, but now we have systems where it won't let you use a bad password. If you are going to enter a password, it's going to enforce, complexity requirements to make sure it's a strong password. So that's an example of not allowing an unsafe action. But at the same time, those systems should make it easy to say, hey, um, give that feedback on, okay, it has to be, X number of characters long, or use certain classes. And I was going to get to password managers, which I think is really beneficial, because using a password manager, you remember one password called the master password that you use to unlock your password manager. And then if you go to a new website to create an account and you need to create a new password, you tell your password manager, hey, create a new account for that website. It will generate you can have it generate a long, complex password that you don't have to remember. And your password manager can just enter the password in for you. And it has the added bonus of, if you get a phishing email, 'cause a lot of times phishing emails, you click a phishing link, you might get sent to a web page that the attackers have made to look like the legitimate website, but it's actually the attacker-owned website, but it's hard to tell the difference at a first glance. The password manager won't put in your password onto the wrong website, since it
Right.
knows to look for the right website, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so there's a
Okay.
lot of benefits there, and so if you have a password manager, just use that, and then there's so many security concerns that you don't even have to think about.
How do you keep abreast of all of this in terms of how do you survey the landscape and keep yourself up to date?
I've tailored my Google News feed on my phone. If I look at my news feed, I will probably see a lot of data about security breaches there. That's one way. I have, curated in Slack. They have an RSS feed feature. And so there are organizations out there that have these feeds about news in the security industry. And I'm particularly interested in news about data breaches. Um, and so I watched that feed. Um, there are, using my network, and trying to stay tapped in, and then learning about how other people are discovering new threat actors or new breaches, is another good source, and just up to date on like new ways of thinking about solutions to the security problems. Um, and another that I'll mention is what's known as a ISACs. So it's ISAC, it's Information Sharing and Analysis Centers. And it's a program that was kind of spearheaded by the Department of Homeland Security, I believe, and where they help various organizations of various industries come together and share information, cybersecurity information on threat actors. So so for example, there's a financial services ISAC, right, that we partake in. So if one financial services company sees a major event or a series of events from a particular threat actor, they can share that with the peers in the industry, because threat actors tend to target if they target one organization, they're going to target others of a similar category, and industries is probably a good way of thinking about what a threat actor would target, like a cluster of organizations. And so it's helpful to have this formal partnership with other organizations in our industry where we can share data about, we call it threat intelligence data, about, or another term you might hear is IOC, or indicators of compromise. And that data we can plug into our threat sensors and to our SIM to look for that activity that we learned from, other organizations, to give us a heads up a head start on being proactive about preventing those threats from affecting us.
How would you motivate somebody to say, hey, come over here to cybersecurity? We got some cool stuff going on.
Yeah, it's I know for me, what motivates me is the constant stream of data breaches that I see from out in the industry and in other organizations, and just thinking like, yeah, I think I could craft a program to prevent all these kinds of breaches, right? And so just wanting to jump in and for the organization I'm working for, it's like, okay, partnering with that organization and excited about that, the organization mission for Greenlight, it's serving our customers and providing, tools so that parents raise financially literate children. And that's the core mission. And so, so that excites me, but also, saying, okay, well, in order to do that, we have to keep all our systems and people safe and keep this data safe. That I find that exciting. I would say if you like to think about ways in which systems or processes can break down or fail, then you might be inclined to do well in security. If you like to talk to people, interestingly enough, like if you're a people person, that's something I think a lot of security does not do well. A lot of security professionals struggle with, and that's something that I struggle with, and I've been working on, and I feel like I've been getting better, but I still focus on that, is building interpersonal relationships, because a lot of times security has a reputation for being like the party of no. Like the business says, hey, I have this new idea, it can bring in all this money, and then security says, no, don't do that because it's not safe. Well, then how can the business grow and make money? And so, but learning how to not say no, but actually have that conversation, build that trust and rapport with people, so that we can actually get on the same page about, okay, how do we do that safely? That's I think that's really important. I think that's so if you are a people person, and even if you're not deep into the technology, there's still avenues there to help provide security value to organizations.
That's
I'm
good to
probably missing
hear.
some, but yeah.
No. I think that so let's touch a little bit more on that. As you mentioned, the ability to develop relationships and I think again the older idea of the security team is that they're just making our life harder, and they're kind of swatting our hand as we attempt to do something and we clicked on a link we weren't supposed to click on, or that type of thing. Or I know in the earlier life of software development, like security was last, not first, right? First, we put it out there and make sure somebody is using it, and then later on, we try and figure out how we keep this secure once we have clients. But at this point, I think that what you're saying is we're in the age of we need you, like we need you now, because if we have a data breach, we might not have a company any longer. If we keep turning all of our data out there to the street. So can you kind of like touch on a little bit more about like the human element, the human dynamic that somebody might be able to bring?
For sure. So one like major buzzword is shadow IT. And that is, so, especially a lot of people working remotely, and we have a lot of cloud native organizations now. It's easy to, sign up for like SaaS services, right? It might be a project management service, a tool, or, you might hear stories of some people who are not security people, but they want to deploy an app, and like they struggle getting through IT and security. So they go and swipe a card at AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft and just stand up a server on their own and then deploy company data out there, right? And which is not safe. It's shadow IT, but I think about it as, if I put myself in their shoes, they're wanting to get something done for the business and provide value to the business. A lot of people just naturally will do what they can to get that done, right, in the name of driving value for the business. A lot of times it's not the safest thing to do if they look at the security team and don't have a good, I think about it as if they think about, okay, I have to talk to security, and if that comes with a sense of anguish, then like the security team is not set up well. And that's something that is very, very important to me, that I stress with everybody that we bring on board at Greenlight. Is like, it's very important that everybody at the company feels good, talking to security, that we're in this with them. We're not against them. We're all on the same team, and we're wanting to build that rapport and that trust. And that trust is important so that security can say, hey, there's two ways we can go about solving your problem. One way, which might be a little bit more cumbersome, but it provides so much more security value, and you still get to solve your problem. Having that influence so that it's easy for our partners and other departments to say, okay, we're going to do it the way that security recommends, so that we stay safe and not risk, going out on their own and doing their own thing, which might be much more risky. So I look at us to say, what's everything that we can do from the security department's perspective to make ourselves seen as helpful partners to all employees at the company. And a lot of that is being careful with how we engage and talk to the other departments, being careful not to just say no, but to be, explain why we are making the recommendations that we are. And like you said, like clicking on a link, like it's important to me to not shame people. I don't want people to feel shame. Everybody makes mistakes. And for security, we put in the defense in depth a lot of tools. So if somebody clicks a link, it should not be catastrophic. It's a problem. We'll fix it. We'll provide some training, but we're not out there to like call people out or make people feel horrible. We want people to learn so that, we can all continue to be better together in the future.
Well, that's good. I don't want to be CC'd to everybody to know that I'm the one that brought the system down. That is definitely good to know. That's not how you would want to be looked at. I think have a good idea now, at least I think I do, of how cybersecurity is playing a role now, and that it's touching on several different things. Again, if anybody who's looking in the media, as you said, the sheer amount of times that they mention a data breach or something, and then if you connect that with that's that person's job is to secure that system, that now I can see that there should be a lot of job openings or a lot of several different things. I know that talking about working with the government, like you have to be in compliance. And so there's auditing situations and other things that are also roles. So I think that anyone who is attempting to enter into the industry, they should definitely give cybersecurity a good look. And it's really interesting that, there just happen to be two things going on at the same time, and you decided to walk in the other door and see what it was like, and it's turned into an entire career for you.
Yep.
And now you're the director of information after 18 years of information security. I want to thank you for taking some time and speaking with us about your field, about your background, and how you got into it. Are there any places on the internet, like your socials, or that you connect with individuals if they wanted to reach you and to talk more about the field?
LinkedIn would be the best. I think it's hard to find me anywhere else. So
Okay.
Anwar Reddick on LinkedIn.
All right, and we'll drop that. If you're online with us and you're watching the video, just look in the description and we'll have that. If you're listening to the audio, it will also be in the description. And we thank you again, Anwar Reddick. Thank you, Director of Information Security at Greenlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this content and want more like it,
Join our community. Visit technologiesofcolor.org and select newsletter from the menu. We keep you in the know about in-person and virtual events intended